Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Justa's Conversation, right here on Usala Radio, with your host, Brian O'Neill and Luis
Hello, welcome once
Gonzalez.
again to Just Conversations from the Ivory Tower to the Street. Dr. Brian O'Neill and Luis Suave Gonzalez. Today, we're featuring some folks that have been affected directly by COVID who have a loved one incarcerated. So, we're going to have a panel of females, relatives of the incarcerated, and they can talk about their personal experience and how things have changed in the world of COVID with those incarcerated, how it's affected visitation and contact. And so we'll go down the list here. We're going to have some other people joining us as we progress. We have Michelle Medina from Staten Island, and we also have Tony from Warminster, Delaware. Elizabeth will be joining us a little bit later, hopefully. Michelle, so you're from Staten Island. So who do you have that's incarcerated?
So thankfully, I don't have anyone incarcerated any longer. My husband served 20 years at the state correctional facilities. He's been home now 10 years. Um, and yeah, I've been with him 33. So
Wow.
yeah, and it was a long, long journey.
So, wow. That's still important. It's important. So, how long after your husband was released did it really took for y'all to get back into some type of normal situation? Because I know it's hard. Because I served myself 31 years in prison, and I'm just getting adjusted to be what we call normal in society. So for you, as a person that we've been married to your husband for 33 years, he served what, 20?
hmm
And then come back. What was that like having your husband back and trying to adapt into a normal situation?
To be honest with you, I was very fortunate. Prior to his release, I was kind of worried about that, how he would adapt to the way everything has changed. And surprisingly, he adjusted pretty well, which is not normal. I mean, yeah, there were little nags and nips, as far as, for instance, when he went in, it was tokens and him coming out, using Metro cards, um, using a cell phone and the modern technology, him being afraid to cross the street. Other than those were the little knacks that we faced. But other than that, he adjusted very well, more than what I expected. Um, he came home. He Yeah, you have to go through. You have to see a parole officer. You have to go through HRA and get Medicaid and stuff like that. He did everything fairly well, and I think within a month he was already working.
Mm.
Um, as far as him being home and adjusting to here it took a little bit more time. I would say he still had the bad habits that he had in prison, or he was still his he was very alert. His sleeping pattern wasn't too good. He was still sleeping, like you guys say, with one eye open at night, and every little noise he would jump out, he would jump up, and then we had to deal with him going from being a weekend dad to being a full-time dad and dealing with a teenager, which is not easy. Um, him, he used to beat himself up. When he went in, my daughter was, I think, 4. Now, when he came home, he was a grandfather.
Oh, wow.
So it was just adjusting to all of that that was a little bit more difficult. But other than that, I think he adjusted pretty well. I think I had to do more adjusting than he did.
In what way?
Well, I was a weekend wife. I wasn't a full-time wife. And now I had to change my patterns as far as, oh, now I have to cook. And it wasn't easy because he starts eating meat in there, where we're Puerto Rican. I'm sorry, we eat pork, we eat steak, and he was just plain turkey or chicken. So I had to come home to cook 2 meals every day, whatever we ate and whatever he ate. Um, I had to share the responsibility of being of disciplining our kids. I had to remember that he had a part in that also now, which was hard for me. Um, because I used to look at him like, who are you to discipline them? Where he had every right to. So I had to adjust myself and share that responsibility with him and learn how to share that responsibility with him. Um, I was used to being the primary provider as far as financially, and I just wouldn't feel right taking his money. And he was like, "Listen, I'm your husband. I'm supposed to share in this." And I was like, "You know what? You're right." Does he regret it now? He sure does. Because now it's like, where's the money? But there's little things like that, especially doing it for so many years that you just need to get accustomed to. Um, and for that reason, I think I have two boys. I was very strict on them as far as them going out and being taken by the streets, because I told them, I said, listen, I never want to go through this again. Never. And for that reason, I think I left Spanish Harlem and came to Staten Island because of that. If not, I would have lost my older one to the streets. So I just don't want to go through that again. It was too much every weekend going. I was fortunate. I mean, I've traveled the correctional facility as far up as Clinton and Bear Hill. Um, but towards the ending, he was down in Fishkill, which was fairly easy. That's where all the weekend visits came from. Um, and lugging the kids midwinter, snowstorms. I just couldn't go through it. I can't go through it again.
Michelle, did you have any therapeutic support in this transition
I
that you made?
did. I did. In fact, with I'm gonna shout them out, but with the Jewish board, and I still see a therapist from time to time. Not so much for, well, yeah, it's just like family stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah. hmm
Good, good. I was wondering if your husband had any of that support.
My husband himself, I think he will not admit that he may need it. He himself is he's not a counselor, but he's an anger management counselor
Mhm.
and stuff. He doesn't have that support. He doesn't. Again, I don't think he will admit that sometimes he may need it. So no.
Right, right. I want to shift a little bit here to Tony. Tony, what is your experience with a relative incarcerated?
It's been hard during COVID because the
Going in and out.
well, I got the facility wasn't doing their job as they needed, like checking the staff. I feel as though like once a week to see if they have it. So with that not being done, it's a lot of staff members out at the prison. A lot of the inmates have COVID, so like you can't get in contact.
We have a freeze. Who do you have that's incarcerated? What relative?
I have a brother that's incarcerated right now. I did have well, he's my ex-husband now. There's certain things I couldn't deal with, like addiction. Like it was just a lot, so I had to let it go.
Okay. And how far away is your brother? Now, you can't do
2.5.
2.5 hours?
Yeah.
So you can't do face-to-face contact right now.
No, not at all.
Can you do what type of visits can you do?
Well, we had video visits, but they canceled them because of the people in the facility having the coronavirus.
Wow.
So they're going to do it like on a 2-week basis. Like right now, it's canceled for 2 weeks, and then they're going to check into it and see if they have to cancel it again or if they're going to redo the visits again.
So you're limited to phone calls at this point.
Yes. Also.
Okay.
So how is you and your family dealing with that situation? Because knowing about Delaware, it's almost like Delaware has very few correctional facilities in Pennsylvania. Over here, we got 29 correctional, and they really all on 45 minutes time every day. And they let the brothers out for 45 minutes, and they got to either take a shower, make a phone call, use their little 10 minutes for the yard. So how is your family dealing with that situation, knowing that you have a loved one that's probably not receiving the same level of treatment that people out here could receive?
I mean, they dealing the best. We're dealing the best that we can. Like we just tell them, make sure you wear your mask, make sure you wash your hands, make sure whatever somebody get on, make sure you cleaning if you got something to clean. Like make sure you doing your part and keep your distance from the people. Like that's all we've been telling them. So,
like I stated, I myself served 31 years in prison, right? So I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to socially distant in a prison, right? You can't, and in most prisons right now, you are forced to have a cellmate.
Right.
That's the reality of the prisons. And to socially distant is nearly impossible. We could try to soap. We don't have the luxury that we have out here, the detergents, the hand sanitizer. Everything we get in the prison is generic. So we don't even get real soap, right? So, I just hope that your family is staying together, sticking together, and showing that support, because I can't say it anymore to the families. Like your loved ones, your friends, your neighbor need your support in these times. These are critical times. Most people that have passed away in the prisons are people are within short time of coming home. A lot of them in PA were lifers, right? But a lot of them were people that was ready to come home. So it's not guaranteed if you find yourself in a correctional facility or county prison that you want to make it home because of this coronavirus. It's not guaranteed, and so I implore all the families out there and friends, like, just stay in touch. Bother your state legislator, bother your state rep, and anybody that could get you information on your loved ones. Don't just take what the prison is telling you, because the prison would do these fake, and I use that word because that's what it is, these fake news conference talking about we are doing everything we can to keep the safety of the prisoners, when in reality they're not. When in reality, because keeping somebody locked in damn near 23 hours a day is not keeping them safe from the coronavirus. And with that, I want to welcome Elizabeth. Thank you for coming back on the show. We happy to see you. And yes, chime in. What you think is the best remedy that we could give families of loved ones that perhaps don't know how to deal with a loved one coming home throughout these times, or still having adjusted to having somebody in the house 24 hours a day versus on the weekends. I know that for me, when I came home, I went into a relationship with somebody that I knew from prison. And I wasn't prepared to deal with relationships or to be in a house with somebody. And because of that lackness, I end up going back to prison for 3 months. I end up getting a parole violation for 3 months. So I know how hard it is for brothers and sisters to come home and adjust, especially throughout these times. So what can we say to the families out there, to at least encourage them to keep supporting their loved ones?
Good morning. Sorry, I had technical difficulties. for me, you mentioned some of it when you're talking to Tony. You have to be active. I tell all the ladies in my group to check in with the counselors, the unit managers. Just because you talk to your loved one does not mean that they don't need to know there's somebody out there that will go around and not accept stuff. They have to know that the person's there. Some people fear. Some of the ladies tell me, "Oh, they're going to retaliate." You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You know when to, back down a little. It always worked for me for almost 20 years. Always call, make yourself known. I'm checking on my husband. They may or may not tell you things, but they know who you are. Eventually, you may, establish a respect between each other that will help you. But in the almost 20 years, we only had one incident at SEI retreat when my husband, I was working on a legacy warrant to prepare ahead of time for him to come home. Any little thing, they'll try to hold you, detain you. So it took me months to clear that out because you know how Philadelphia is. I found it. They shipped him to Philadelphia. He was escorted by two people. He was handcuffed in the back, they're in the front. He went to the judge he was there for like 2 days. Then they took him back. He didn't never touch the envelope. It was in some green folder that had the dismissal of that warrant. So there was no reason to detain. The lady in records didn't like that I did call around. So she tried to be funny. And, it's signed in when they come back, escorted back. He never touched it. He's in the back in the handcuffs. She decided to be funny, thinking we don't know what we're doing. And the thing got disappeared after we went through all that to have it dropped and whatever. I had the relationship, the respect. I've talked personally to the superintendent, talked to the central. They already knew me because of my regular consistency. And it was rectified. I even got a personal phone call from the superintendent, and boom, it was fixed on the record. You have to be a presence. You have to stay consistent, and you have to show that you're going to fight. That's one thing. That works. Secondly, you do show your face to the state representatives. You do let it known. You do, carry on and try to present yourself. You don't just accept stuff. You go. I mean, there was an example. I'm Muslim, but I'm not covered, with my age and stuff right now. But at the prison, they gave us a hard way to go at SCI Monterey. No other prison did this. You can ask Tony because we're from the same place. We got treated. I felt violated. We had to get subjected to extra searching. We had to take our stuff off. They were picking, looking. I mean, and one time I almost cried when he was graduating at Monterey because this lady had the thick blue gloves, like I had some kind of disease or something. That's not acceptable. You do not do that to any other visitor. I don't care what Muslim lady snuck something somewhere. You don't check people's belts. You don't check diaper bags. All these things that somebody did, that's not legal. I even went through the chain of command. I called up there. They still respected me because you don't have to be a jerk about it. You just professionally do what you got to do. I kept calling the governor's office. I kept calling central office. I kept going. I talked to the superintendent. She said it wasn't because it was the same superintendent I had at retreat. She moved to Monterey. She's like, well, it was here before I got here. That was her excuse. She wasn't changing it. I got somebody at the governor's office in civil rights. Guess what? I came back for another visit. We don't do that no more. Oh my God, I felt so good. Ask Tony. We were like, because it was so violating. I don't know how to explain it. We were not treated like all the other visitors, and they kept making us.
So this is what I always tell the brothers. We don't understand sometimes because when we in prison, we live in a bubble, right? And our bubble, we see things a different way, but we don't understand the humiliation that our families go through just to get up to these prisons. It don't start at the prison. It starts at the bus stop when you go, if you're not driving, when you go take the bus, and sometimes they got the state police waiting there with dogs and iron scanners and all that. It starts with that, and a lot of the time I tell the brothers, man, take that. Do you really want your family exposed to that type of behavior because of our conduct? And I know how it is. I know how it is. Like I said, I've been to plenty of prisons, plenty of federal prisons as a person. And I always tell people, like, I used to always tell my family, I don't need no visits. I'm good. And they used to take it as, oh man, he's burnt out, or he's instituted, because they couldn't understand that I couldn't deal knowing that they was being subjected to that type of humiliation by guards. And sometimes, you know, the race, play a big part. I know a lot of guards that when they used to see interracial couples, they used to go in their bag and just do everything they can to discourage that person from coming back up. And that's the reality. I know in the institution I was in, they had a stereotype of woman, Muslim women that wear guard, because to them, it was like they're all coming in to do XYZ, to bring drugs, um, to do a lot of things, right? Which is not the case. It's not the case. But that's the stereotype of people, right? There are a lot of people out here don't see. That's the type of behavior that people don't see. That's the kind of behavior that a lot of people don't understand in society our families go through. You know, and that's the reason why a lot of our families decide not to visit these prisons. Because for every person that visit a prison, there's 10 people that's not going. I know people in the prison system that's been there 20, 25 years and haven't have a visit yet. And haven't have a visit yet. And it's not, for those that don't know, they might think, oh, the family abandoned they loved one in prison. No, that's not the case. It's just the humiliation, you know. I also know that in the prison I was in, that if you was an immigrant, they used to, from time to time, they had ICE out there waiting for people to come in to detain them. So this is the kind of behind the scene things that a lot of people don't understand. And then when I come home, I'm angry, right? And you have to deal with it. You have to deal with it because now I'm living with you in the house 24 hours a day, right? And I can't separate the anger that I picked up in the prison system towards them guards to the anger that I got because I don't understand. I haven't learned how to navigate my way into the community yet. So now I'm angry at you. Now I'm arguing with you. So it's deeper than just coming home and having your loved ones. I always ask people, do a lot of people know why relationships after prisons don't last? A lot of people don't know that we come out, we are damaged good, we come out damaged. And even though we act like we not, even though we act like we don't need the therapy, we do. Because we come out with a different mindset that it takes time to deprogram. Like I said, and I'm going to keep saying it, I was home for 1 year to the day before I was back in the same prison that I served 31 years. 1 year. 1 year because I entered a bad relationship. So having y'all on the show shed light to what go on across the country when these brothers and sisters come home and y'all the one that got to deal with the problem. Doc, it's on you, Doc.
I just wanted to ask, I wanted to point out that there was some disturbing article the Marshall Project put out just yesterday about COVID in prison, talking about PPDs not being widely available, talking about, they were taking temperature of people entering. There's a couple of facilities where the batteries were dead for days on the temperature device to take the temperature, and nobody had any access to refresh the batteries, and just incredible neglect and not putting much priority on these because they're incarcerated people. And so that's one of the things I think is very disturbing and takes family advocacy to make a difference, like Elizabeth's talking about. Because in many cases, the only people that are mostly affected by this are going to get listened to. Because these are forgotten people. And there's not much priority to do much, to reach out to them. The public attitude sometimes is, well, they should have got themselves there. Whatever happens to them is too bad. And I think that that is an attitude that you have to fight against in order to get these minimal services. And it's getting bad. I mean, as far as Pennsylvania is concerned, there was some disturbing report just today that some facilities, have gotten hit pretty hard, especially Laurel Highlands, the minimum security prison in Western Pennsylvania. Houses geriatric and medically infirm prisoners, has 344 COVID infections. That's the highest total in the system. In this article, WHYY quotes a released person that recently came out, and he said that there are as many as 6 people in a cell. So once it gets into the facility, that is COVID-19, becomes almost impossible to contain it under those kinds of conditions. So that's something that is extremely important. Matter of fact, last month, Wetzel, who's the head of the DOC in Pennsylvania, said the prison's workforce had dropped by about 10% during this recent surge. As of Thursday, there were over 1,700 employees across the state and our state correctional systems out for a variety of reasons. About 3% of the currently infected with COVID, according to the department. That's the ones, of course, that we identified and know about. Of course, some people are asymptomatic and might even know that they have it, which is also problematic, of course. Some restrictions were lifted in May, but it looks like that probably will be put back again. And so that's what's happening around the state where we are. I don't know what it is everywhere else. Of course,
Well, it's almost similar in all the states. It's almost similar.
Right.
And right now, we want to welcome Anna Santiago. She just tuned in. Welcome to the show. You got to unmute yourself. Thank you. Welcome to the show. And we would like to hear your insight on the situation. Tell us where you're from, who you have in the correctional system or who you had in the correctional system and how you dealing with it and how you dealt with it.
My name is Anderson. I'm from New York City. I have a son doing a bit in Pennsylvania. He's been down for 21 years now.
Where he at?
He's at SEI Fayette in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
It hasn't been easy because in back in 2006, I was suspended for life. Ever seeing my son again. I was reinstated again back in 2012 for some miracle. But we have another issue again. He's back in SCI Fayette. So now I'm again suspended. I can have no contact with him through video or email. But it's okay because as a mother, we have to take it one day at a time. Because if we lose it, like I have lost it a lot of time, they don't have nobody else because nobody cares what they go through in the Pennsylvania system. That's a fact. And I'm from New York. And I have dealt with inmates in New York. And believe me, it's not comparing to the Pennsylvania outlet. I remember when my son had that problem back in 2006 and Fayette, that's why he got 7 years in lockdown for the RRL. He was in lockdown for 7 years without no contact whatsoever with anybody. My first contact with him was back in 2012 at SCI, can't remember the place, retreat. And when I went and saw my son after 7 years, I have never saw my son ever again. I saw that they were overdosing him with some medication to have him controlled because of the situation that happened for Fayette that I'm not going to go back, but there's a lot of details. There's a lot of inmates involved and knew that he was in process. So, but they locked him down. The STD program, the STD union locked him down for 8 years. When I saw my son back in retreat, what they didn't know is I'm a certified nurse aide for HASA in New York City. So I do with a lot of patients that does overdose in prescription. When I saw my son drill into the glass wall, I took a chair because I wanted to break that wall. Because if my son would have stayed there for 5 minutes longer, he would have died of an overdose because he was turning purple and he was pissing on himself, drooling. He had no eye contact. When the union manager came to me and said, why I did that? I said, I'm a nurse. When I showed him my badge, everything, they took him to the facility, they washed him up, they gave me another visit the next day. That's when my contact visit came with him. But it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy, and especially me, I'm in New York. I always have to look out. I have to get people to tell me what's going on in Pennsylvania because we don't get the alert from Pennsylvania. But due that I have a lot of friends in the internet that keep me on point. But it have not been an easy ride. Right now, my son has been in for a year for past 6 months. I don't even know if he's okay. I'm assuming he is because I called his counselor and he told me he's doing good. But because I'm suspended from Fayette facility, I can't have no contact with him. And
well, what we want to tell you on the show is that we feel your pain, and we know. And after the show, I'm gonna give you my number because I know some real. Well, we know some real people in the state that can facilitate you and help you get information on your son. Well, when I say help, because we online, I don't want to put it out there. Just give me a call. We could connect you, right, to make sure that your son is all right. We could look into that, like easily. We could do that. Sometimes it takes people in positions to cut through the red tape, and you just got to know the right people. And fortunately for you, you know me, and you know Dr. O'Neill, and we know a few people that we could get through to get some information on your son. But the importance of this is to the people and to the listeners is that the traumatic effect that our incarceration has on our family.
Yes, I have nervous breakdown, a lot of stuff, over the years. I overcome because I have a job, Thank God that my job keeps me safe. I have not lost my job over the pandemic. Thank God for that. But I have my moment that I want to give up. I'm tired. It's 21 years. I'm tired. I'm 62 and I'm like, when I'm going to have a peace of mind? Never. Once my son is in the facility, I will never have a peace of mind. He's a lifer. Understand? Not even to come home tomorrow, next week, or next year.
What's his name?
His name is Nelson Gonzalez. He's gonna die in prison.
Oh wow! Say his name again.
His name is Nelson Gonzalez, but he goes by the name of Westside.
Oh my God!
Don't tell me you know him.
I do. I served 31 years in this Pennsylvania State Prison. I do.
So you know
I do. Yes.
Who's my son?
Yes. So like I said, these are the type of this is the type of information that people need to understand. And I know for some people it's like, so what? But put yourself in Anna's shoes. Suppose it was your son. Suppose it was you banned for life, that you can't see your son or daughter or grandkid, all cousin. It's a traumatic effect. And not knowing what's going on with your loved one in the prison, this is what these prisons are designed for, especially a prison like Fayette, which is what they call a disciplinary prison. They put you there, they kind of lose you in the state because you get lost. You get lost in the state. They solitary confinement is probably one of the biggest in the state. Because that's where they house all the death row prisoners at. They give you this medication, they take your mind out of you, so you physically there, but your mind is somewhere else, right? To the point where you can't really do much for yourself. You don't really know where you at. And this is not by coincidence. This is by design, people. Trust me, I've been there. I've been in solitary confinement.
Not easy.
You know, I spent 7 years in solitary confinement myself. You know, so I understand what Anna is going through. You know, and if I sound emotional, it is because I could just imagine what my mother was going through when she didn't know where I was at. Because there was a period in my incarceration where they took me from the state prison and sent me to the federal system. So I went through, even though I never been convicted of a federal crime. They took me from the state system and gave me a tour through the federal system. So I ended up in Texarkana, I ended up in Lime Park, California, I ended up in Lewisburg, I ended up in Leavenworth Prison, and it took a lawsuit for me to get back to the state prison so I could be close to my family. And even then, they sent me to SCI Pittsburgh on the other side of the state. So this is what the state do, you know. And I could just imagine. And I was a lifer, so I could just imagine what my mother was going through. So you know, just know, Anna, that
Thank you.
by you sharing this information, you are helping thousands and thousands of family that's listening, that's tuning in. You really giving them an insight that a lot of people don't get to experience. Because we hear these stories, we hear the stories about guys being in the hole for 10 years and 20 years, but we don't see the faces. We don't see the faces. We don't hear their families speak because sometimes the families are too ashamed to even say, I got a loved one in prison.
I'm not.
We need to stop that, people. You know,
I'm
if
not.
it's your son, a daughter,
I'm
grandkid,
proud.
nephew, cousin, you don't be embarrassed. It is what it is.
You know why I'm proud of my son? Because other kids would have not made it. Not made it. A lot of kids commit suicide because they cannot deal with the system. And my son went in there when he was 17. So, and he's
Hold up. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's a whole different dimension. You
yeah, I
say
know.
your son was 17?
Yes. But check this out. Pennsylvania hold it for 2 years on Burke County so they could start trial.
No,
They
no, no,
went
no, no. At what age did he get arrested?
17 going to 18. Yes.
Was he 17?
Yes.
Because if he's 17 years old, then they have to give him some type of release because the United States Supreme Court ruled. That's how I got out. I was 17 when I went in. I was 17, and based on the new law, which is you cannot keep a juvenile in prison for the rest of his life, I was given parole, right? So if he was 17, then maybe you should start looking and contacting lawyers that
We are.
they can
We are.
help him out because he's entitled to have a resentencing hearing.
He is. Believe me, he is. He's been fighting it since in that law came. In that new law came 3 years ago. He's been fighting, but you have to
No, no,
understand.
no. But I need you to understand this. It's not even about fighting. He is entitled by
Yeah.
law to get resentenced. He is entitled by law. So, like I said, I'm gonna put you in contact with some people that could direct you in the right direction after the show, right? But again, people, this is the situation that we face in our correctional facilities, not only in Pennsylvania, but in Wilmington, Delaware. I got family in the correctional system over there. I got a nephew that was 17. He was sentenced to 49 years in Wilmington, Delaware at the age of 17, right? Um, I know plenty of people in the correctional system in Pennsylvania. You know, this show is built to give y'all a voice. And in y'all sharing your story, y'all are educating the public. So I just
Let me,
want to thank everybody for doing that.
I want to remind
let me tell
everybody,
you something.
I just want to remind listeners you're listening to a Justice Conversation on USALA, and we're joined today with Tony, Michelle Medina, Elizabeth Locke, and Anna Santiago, talking about those that have family members in the correctional system or recently have graduated from the correctional system. And this show is sponsored by Westchester University, and that's where we're at. Go ahead, Elizabeth. I think Anna, you were going to say something.
Yes, I was gonna say my son was sentenced to a double life and with a 80, 120 concurrent sentence. So this is what I don't understand. That's
Wow.
what my son has in Pennsylvania.
And I'm here to tell you that it don't matter if he got 20 life sentence. If he was 17 years old, if he was 17 years old, according to the United States Supreme Court, Montgomery versus Alabama,
Yes,
he
I
is
read
in,
that.
he is entitled to a brand new sentencing hearing. They
He's
have
waiting
to
for
give him they have to give him anything other than a life sentence. So
yes.
so I don't care how much time he got or none of that. It don't matter. I know guys right now, they are walking my community that was serving double life, triple life. So I'm
I
here
just
to tell you,
want
Anna, that
hope
it's just about getting with the right people, and especially a person that's being in solitary confinement where he can't reach certain information. He's being medicated. On top of that, so his mind is not probably on the court system and how to get out of jail. So we have to do that for him out here, and again, this is the important of having y'all share. So I want to go back to you, Tony, for a minute.
yes.
Recently, Wilmington been on the national news
Yes.
with these lines of people getting tested for COVID and all that. Have you had any contact with your loved one? I mean, contact via phone, letter, just to know how they're getting treated, because we interested in knowing how they're getting treated in that state.
Well, my family members in Pennsylvania, so I don't have anybody that's incarcerated down here in Delaware.
Oh,
So I don't know exactly how they're being treated down here.
okay. Yeah, Pennsylvania is bad. It's
Yeah.
really. We just had the lieutenant governor on the show, and thank for us, he's a friend of the people. He's somebody that could be reachable. He's somebody that, and when I say a friend, meaning that for many years we had nobody that was advocating for lifers to get out. Now we got a lieutenant governor that's advocating for the serving lifers to get out. And his offer is reachable. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. So Michelle, uh,
Yes.
being though being though that your husband been home 10 years already, do you find yourself sometimes thinking back on that first day he was released back into your household?
Absolutely not. In fact, we were talking about that the other day. Hmm.
Is he there?
He is.
Okay. Do you want to say a few words, man?
Congress.
It will be encouraging. It will be encouraging.
Hold on.
Like,
Mm. Yeah. Mhm.
No,
what's
well,
up, bro?
Hey, how's it going? My
Hey
name is
man, listen,
Richard.
man, we're having a very important dialogue and conversation, man. And being though that you've been in the system and been home for 10 years, man, what encouraging words do you have for the people, man? Like they're just coming home. People that just got released and it's a pandemic and they gotta come home. They don't have a wife, they gotta go to the halfway house. What encouraging words you have for them?
Don't give up. The main important thing is don't give up. A lot of people, I deal with this every day with some of the clients that I work with, and most of the times is that it's hard because of financial situations, the shelter itself, a lot of barriers that were created throughout the years for people, and they coming home and it's hard. And the families got to encourage. They got to keep encouraging. Don't give up. Don't give up because all it takes is that split second for a person to decide and go back to the street life, and especially when they under those conditions. So it's hard. It's not easy, but the families can't give up. The families is what makes or breaks a person, and you can't give up. There's always a way. There's always a way for people to move forward.
So what type of work you do today?
Well, I'm still in the reentry field. I used to work for the Osborne Association. Um, I work for Montefiore Transitions Clinic. And I just ended my I resigned from Fortune because now I'm in the hospital system, but I'm still doing reentry work. I'm also a consultant for Exodus Transitional Community, where I teach anger management, I teach substance abuse, recovery coaching for people that
Wow.
come home. So it's all in the reentry field.
We need to bring you back on the show for yourself, bro. I'm serious, man, because I'm in the reentry business, right?
Yeah,
And it's just hard, man. I came home. My first job was running a resource center
the
for returning citizen, right? But what I found out was that I was helping everybody, but I wasn't helping myself. And I was telling my mentor, which is used to be my professor when I was in prison, which is Dr. O'Neill. And that's how we met. He was coming to prison and we met in class and we stay in touch. And now we hosting a radio show together, right? But I was just telling him recently that I've been home. Yesterday was 3 years on the spot,
right.
right? And I'm just adjusting to finding my way and finding my peace. Before I was home, it was almost like I was trying to please everybody. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to, be part of a community that I was gone for 31 years. And
Right.
I don't think a lot of people understand how hard that is.
They do.
I don't think a lot of people understand how important the family structure is for a returning citizen. The family, he said it best. If you don't have a family supporting you, your chances of ending back in prison are 9 times greater. I'm a testament to that. I was home for 1 year and I was doing everything I was supposed to do. I was working, I was running a resource center. I even had a job at the police station as a case manager. And they still took me back for 3 months on a violation. And I get back to prison, they knocked the violation off because they found out that the person was lying. But I still went back. So I can attest to that. And that's because the lack of family structure, the lack of family support. Because I don't have no family in Pennsylvania. So what I'm saying to the people out there and what I'm saying to y'all, right? It's hard, but man, you got to stick it out. You got to stick it out. And if you still have somebody in the correctional system, you have to be there for that support. You cannot break down. The system is designed to discourage you from being involved in your loved one's life. It's designed. Everything in the correctional system is designed to break your spirit. Starting with commissary, the high rate phone calls, the vending machines in the visiting room, the money you spent just to go to a visit. All that is designed to make you not want to go. And a lot of people buy into that. So then when I come home, I really don't have no family. Unfortunately for me, my mother passed when I was in prison. So I went to prison at such a young age that when I came out, I really didn't know, my siblings because I was gone from their life so long. I really don't know my cousins because most of them was born after I went to prison. I make it sound like 31 years is not a long time, but 31 years is a long time to be
Listen,
locked in a cage. And then
a
you got to
day
come
is a
home
long
and try
time.
to reconnect with loved ones that you haven't seen in that long. Don't even know what you look like. I could be walking through the streets of the Bronx right now, and I could probably walk through my family and cousins, and I probably can't even tell you who they are unless they identify themselves. And that's hard. And that's hard. So yes, I want to bring you back, brother, to the show and just do something, man. Just you and to the mothers and to the wives and to the sisters on behalf of all the brothers and sisters in the correctional facility, I thank you for your support.
You know, it's so imperative to have voices like you folks helping with those transitioning, because to have people that have been there and walked in those steps, it just gives it makes you much more credible, and you're a voice that's going to be listened to, as opposed to some well-meaning, social worker that can't really fully empathize with what that feels like. You know what it's like because you were there and you did those steps. So to have those people as part of the voice, I think, is a huge game changer. I really do.
Yeah,
Because you're a
yeah.
living example of what is possible and something to aspire to. And being that role model right in front of the person can have a big, big impact.
And to have a brother, just to have a brother that served 20 and been home 10, right? Like been home 10. That is a stretch, man, because they said that the first 5 years after you come home are the most crucial years, man. And so to hit that milestone of 10 years home, that's yo, that is to be commendable because a lot of people don't make it that far. I have a friend that served 30 years, juvenile lifer, was home for 3 weeks and, you know, passed away, committed, did a bag of that dope and just OD. Couldn't deal with the pressure. This is a guy that was walking the yard. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. When he finally made it home, he couldn't deal with the pressure of being home because he found out that when he came home, like he really had no family support. He really had no family support, and he couldn't deal with it and did a bag of dope and died. Did a bag of dope and died. For me, lucky for me, I had people like Dr. O'Neill. Because like I said, I'm in Pennsylvania. My family live in Wilmington. My family are from New York. So that's where I got most of my family, what I so-called family, because you got family and relatives. And but lucky for me, I had a team of people in place that still there for me whenever I need them. But they still couldn't give you what that family could give you. It's that connect that you have. So again, I go back to the family structure that what y'all doing is a job that a lot of people don't want to sign up for. What Elizabeth is doing is a job. And again, I thank you, Elizabeth, for connecting us with these wonderful folks because we need these people to come on these shows and share their stories. People need to see the faces behind the pain. And just because your loved one is home don't mean that it stopped there. That's when the real battle continue because now you got to relearn how to learn that person. A lot of us been in the case so long that we don't really know how to love people no more. And when I mean love, I mean relationship love. We've been in cased up that we build this whole mindset, which is about survival. And the same way we deal with relationship in the prison is not the way we deal with relationship in the society. Because that's the mindset that take you back to prison. I'm a survivor by any means necessary. That's what I'm talking about. This is where family come in at. In the prison system, we had this mindset where I'm gonna survive. And everything somebody say could determine your freedom all your life. Well, out in society, we have people that don't know you've been in prison. So instead of saying, Mr. Such and Such, they're like, yo, especially if they have a little authority over you in the workplace, or because they don't know your history. And we don't want to walk around with a poster in our head, I've been in prison, respect me. That's not how it goes, man. And this is when family come in at and guide you. This is when you need that support. So Michelle, on behalf of the show, we commend you We really commend you for being there for your husband for the 20 years he was down, for the 10 years he's been out, and for the 33 years of marriage. You know, that is a story. Because sometimes when we go to prison, out of sight, out of mind, people forget about us, especially relationship. You know, so nobody out there can say that, oh, that's what happens when you go to prison. No, you still have people that stick with their loved one no matter what. And this is a story right there. I want to say a love story, but I don't know if that's the proper word. But that's the story, man. Like this is what people need to see, because just you being there with your husband is encouraging other women to stand by their loved one, regardless of how much time that person got. You know, and that's the moral of the story, man. Support, 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 support. So before we go, I just want to give each and one of y'all a few seconds to say something to the people out there. We're gonna start with Tony.
You start with me because I'm from Wilmington. Nah, just check up on your loved ones, like you were saying, and like Elizabeth was saying. Call the counselors, stay in contact, just to make sure they okay, especially during these times.
Michelle Medina.
Yes, I want to tell everyone that it's not easy. You'll have your hard times. Just find a strong support system, not only for yourself, but you can be a support system for your loved ones.
Anna.
Don't turn your back, because a lot of inmates' families turn their back, and take it one day at a time, because it will overwhelm you. So you have to take it step by step. That's my advice. And when you feel it's too much, reach out to somebody. I had to reach out to people on Facebook because my own family turned their back on me, which I don't bother with them anymore. It's been 20 years. So, but I reach out to Liz when I'm in a situation. Liz became my friend, my mentor, my sister, everything to me. Without Liz, I think I would have fallen apart a long time ago. But that's what I thank for friends that I met over the years through the system.
Elizabeth.
Yes, I met Michelle in 2015, but I believe in the time. So this was the time that my spirit said to reach out because of the readjusting. And she's been in my support group for ladies, and Tony and Anna. Anna's been 15 years, me and Tony since the PA lockdown. And you got to build your own support and really strengthen each other, because we are powerful together. And that's something that my group has been around for over 7.5 years. And like I said, I'm grateful. I love you guys. Your family. We created our own family to empower other family, and one teaches one teaches one. So that's what you got to do. Like Anna's family, like we cry, we talk, we fight together. I love getting to know Michelle and Tony. You know, you my sister. She's taking over because my husband's home now. We had the same prison, so she took what I taught her. We make a difference, and you just have to find the support and grow it. So I'm grateful. That's how because there's family that are scared, so you got to teach them. You don't have to do everything, so it gets overwhelming, but cry on their shoulder, keep going and learn. Teach each other. Everybody has a piece to the puzzle, so we can all learn together. So that's what I try to do, and that's what I learned from her or her or her. Like Michelle, I'm learning from you because you guys have more time in. So that's what I'm saying. That's what you got to do. So that's what I wanted to share. We're all here on this journey to empower families.
In closing, I want to say again, thank you, everyone. I hope this is not the last time y'all come on. Our doors are open, so whenever y'all want to come on and educate the public, y'all welcome. I also want to say thank you to my supporters out there. Thank you to Dr. Brian O'Neill. Like, he's been like, I don't know. He's been one of my biggest supporters. We co-host the show together. He gave me part of my education in the criminal justice system. You know, in fact, that's how we met, in a criminal justice class. And guess what? You know, we got to go, but it won't be the last show. So thanks to our engineer out there. Again, You're listening to a Justice Conversation on Usala Media Radio, and our show is sponsored by Westchester University. Doc, take it home.
Well, I'm thankful. I'm thankful to you, Suave, because you're the guy that started this whole thing. And coming up on Thanksgiving, and I thank all of our guests for all the sharing they've done today. Greatly appreciated. I'm sure it'll go a long way. Thank you.
And Joanna, Elizabeth, you can share my information with Anna. I have some information for you that could help you real good.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody
Thank
have
you.
a safe Thanksgiving. Again, you're listening to a Justice Conversation on Usala Media Radio. Sponsored by Westchester University. Share this video. Ana, coge mi teléfono y llámame.
Gato, me llamo
Que te-
ahorita.
tengo información para ti que te pueda ayudar.
Está bien, Lisa me lo da.